Welcome to another episode of the Mediatwits. I'm your host, Andrew Lee of American University, filling in for Mark Glazer. So we have yet another box. This week, Amazon released its new living room device, the $99 Fire TV. While it's a bit late to the party, it's providing some interesting new capabilities. It's similar to existing popular products such as Apple TV, Roku, and Google's Chromecast in that it brings video playback to Amazon customers. It supports Netflix, Hulu, Pandora, and of course, Amazon Instant Video for Prime customers. Now, where it goes beyond its rivals is by using a voice activation search function, building in a quad-core processor and a powerful graphics chips, which brings full video game capabilities to your TV. So as these devices from all these major players become more user-friendly and full-featured, has the cord-cutting movement hit critical mass? Consumers now have a dizzying choice of streaming and online content from these third-party hardware devices, set-top boxes from cable operators, and even the apps built into TVs like Sony, Panasonic, and Vizio. So to discuss what Amazon's new product means to consumers and the industry, we are joined by Eric Elia, Managing Director of Kincaid and a frequent MediaShift contributor. We have Janko Rutgers, who recently did an in-depth review for GigaOm's cord cutters, and Dan Rayburn, streaming video guru at streamingmedia.com, and Claire Groden, our PBS MediaShift intern and producer. So I thought I'd turn to Janko first. You're one of the first folks who have an extended video review of the Amazon Fire TV. So how does it stack up against the existing boxes, and does it change the landscape in any significant way?
I don't think it quite changes the landscape yet. It's an interesting device. First of all, it looks nice. It has a good feel to it. It has a couple of interesting twists. You already mentioned the voice control, which has been available on a couple of other devices, not on the Apple TV or the Roku box, but Samsung has been having voice control in their smart TVs anyway for a while, and Google TV devices have been having voice control as well. But this is now the first device that you can buy, or the first one that could get popular at this price point for about $100 that uses voice control. And that's interesting because using a keyboard can be really painful on your television, or finding like the letters going left, right, up, down to right, long search terms. It's always very painful. So that's a good solution, definitely. There's some other twists to it. I think one interesting differentiator is the gaming. They put a bigger emphasis on gaming than anybody else in this box space anyway. And for this price point, again, obviously you can buy a full-fledged game console for $300-$400 or even more if you buy bundles. But they are more going up against, they're trying more something like Ouya did before, which is a cheap game console that targets people who have been playing more on their phones and their tablets, and now they want to do that on a big screen as well. And I think that's an interesting twist. The device is still missing some of the more popular apps, some content, and even some Amazon services are not there yet. For example, the Amazon Music service, the Music Cloud Locker, you can't access it with the device yet. So there's some stuff missing still, and I think we have to give it a couple of months to see how it really stacks up against Roku and all these other guys. But it's an interesting first take.
Right. Dan, you also mentioned some things that you were impressed by, but kind of surprised that it wasn't quite ready at launch.
Well, it kind of feels like it was rushed. If you ordered the device yesterday, you have to wait a week to get the game controller, but if you order the game controller today, you now have to wait 3 weeks. So they've obviously already sold out of the first batch of game controllers. I didn't really like the chart that Amazon has on their website where it compares their box versus Apple and Roku and Chromecast, because they left out all of the sports services. So right now it doesn't have MLB TV, it doesn't have NBA live games, doesn't have NHL, doesn't have Major League Soccer. So it's missing all the sports. Now, MLB TV is coming. They won't say when. They're only saying this season. WWE Network is also coming to the box. So it's Amazon's first, shot with the box. It's obviously going to get a lot better. You're going to get a lot more content services from it. You're going to get more choices. And probably for all consumers, it's a good thing because we have more choices in the market. The flip side of that is with more choices in the market comes more confusion.
Right. And is that, you actually have it on in back of you, is that right?
No, that's actually the Xbox.
Oh, that's Xbox.
No,
it's very similar in terms of interface. But Janko, you had tested it, and you said it was really a function of the faster CPU and some of the graphics processing that it has.
Yeah, so when you scroll, particularly when you scroll through an individual series where you have preview pictures of each and every episode. That's really, really fast and really fluid, and we see it right there, right now. The Hangouts connection doesn't quite give it justice, I guess. But so within the menus, it's very slick. Once you get into the gaming, there might be some more lags, and especially when you compare it to like a high-powered game console, it's not as powerful as that, but it's definitely more powerful than a Roku, and you can feel that when you scroll through these menus. And another thing that they do is pre-caching of content, which is also interesting. So if you were to go to a TV show and then you want to watch an episode, you browse through, you try to find the episode that you want to watch, then it already pre-fetches the first couple of seconds. So you don't have to sit through there anymore with spinning wheels and wait for this content to finally start, but it just starts right away, which is in a way more like a TV experience where you don't have to wait 10 seconds either before your program starts. Or at least you shouldn't.
Did you get that every time, though? Because so far I've gotten it like half the time it started instantly, and the other half I've had to wait a second or two, kind of like other streaming devices out there.
I have seen a spinning wheel, too. I think they try to prioritize some things. I heard that they are doing some assumptions on what you are going to watch. So if you watch a certain TV show and you have watched 3 episodes and they prefetch the 4th episode the next time you go in there, there are some instances in which they still do pre-cache. And I find if I am really, really fast, I'm a little too fast for the for the device. But if I browse through the content and I look back and forth a little bit, then typically it starts without interruption.
Interesting. So Eric, looks like you're an experienced user now. You've done some games. So what are your impressions of this box?
I really like it so far. I think we touched on the video performance and quality. I think with that pre-cache combined with the speed of the box, the video experience is very elegant. I agree that gaming, I think, is a differentiator. The casual gaming market is larger than the hardcore gaming market, and we've seen the popularity of casual games on phones and Facebook and what that's meant over the past few years. And I think that'll be very appealing to a wide audience. I also think features like the free time layer on the box for kids and families is really nice. A separate color to denote you're in that world, and an allotted amount of time, pre-configured set of content that works in there will be a very popular feature for parents who need to get dinner on the table and are using the TV for some educational programming for a short time. And voice search I thought was great. I mean, the only thing I was able to stump it with was my bad Michael Caine accent and pronouncing Wim Wenders with the actual German pronunciation. But a lot of foreign terms pronounced with an American accent, and just about any actor, director, or film name I could come up with worked on the box, which was great. So stacking up versus the other platforms, I think that the biggest differentiator for Amazon having a box that measures up well against its competitors will be the retail channel. They have the best unmatched retail channel, despite missing a few apps right now, which they're going to catch up very quickly. They have now to the holiday season to build up a lot of 5-star, 4-star ratings, a great reputation with the product. And anytime someone goes and searches Netflix, Roku, Chromecast, Apple TV on Amazon, or goes to that front page, they're going to get this thing promoted to them. And I think it'll be a very popular seller, much as we saw with Kindle Fire and the previous devices. So that's my knee-jerk reaction. I think we shouldn't kid ourselves that there's a lot of parity amongst the devices, despite kind of the quality of the UI and the advantages of this new device. But what this really comes down to is in migrating people from traditional TV services potentially is there's still no substitute and really no comparison in terms of the value you get, I think, from the combination of channels, linear TV, and in particular sports that you get from traditional distributors. And frankly, I'm just still waiting till Amazon, Apple, or Google gets into the game. Like, when the DirecTV deal for NFL Sunday Ticket expires or something like that. And I'm waiting for one of these guys to make a real big exclusive bet and get into the ring, much as a Turner or a Comcast would.
Right. Dan, you track a lot of these things in terms of deals of MSOs and sports and how much lock-in there is before a true cord-cutting environment exists. Does Amazon change anything, or are we still looking at these long-term contracts with sports networks or with sports conferences, kind of still holding people to the cable connections and satellite connections?
Yeah, that's never going to change. Amazon can't impact that. Microsoft can't impact that. Even Google. There is the talk of the Google and the NFL, but you have to remember that the NFL is a great example. Everyone's saying they should go online and they should stream it, make it a subscription service, but the NFL is making billions of dollars a year in licensing to the broadcasters. Why would they get rid of that money and go online when they can't make as much money or anything close to it? There's no incentive on the business standpoint for them to do that. So, Amazon and others have huge, huge power in the market, but they don't own the actual content on the sports side. That's all owned by the leagues, so there's no incentive for the leagues to do that.
Yeah, well, it would have to be a parity thing, and the league, the new distributors would have to come to the table with, a deal that is equal to or greater than what they're seeing on the TV side. So, if the NFL is not going to go to like 3 or 4 nights a week with a Thursday night game or something like that, if they carved off a Wednesday night game for Apple or one of these guys and they were willing to spend the money, they would take it. I mean, the NFL's had a quality streaming product available in other countries for years. They just, to Dan's point, they're not bringing it to the U.S. because there hasn't been a deal worthwhile for them to bring it.
Right. As Dan mentioned before, there was a kind of a comparison matrix on Amazon's site in terms of what they did and didn't have. The one thing that Amazon conceded they didn't have that the others did have was HBO Go. So should we read anything into that Amazon is saying, yeah, we don't have HBO Go? Is it coming? Is there some hang-up there? Yanko or Dan, do you know anything about that? Or even Eric?
Well, we know they're working on it. I mean, they're not going to come out and say they have it until they have it, but we know they're working on it. I'm sure they'll get it. They've already said MLB's coming, WWE's coming. So we know they're working hard to bring more content to the device. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, we're actually we're a design and development firm, and we're working not on HBO but other apps that'll come to the box hopefully really soon. So I think there's going to be a landslide of apps over the next month or two. It is telling, though, Showtime Anytime is on the box, and it's not available on Apple TV. And AirPlay is even blocked on the Showtime Anytime apps if you're trying to mirror to Apple TV. So I don't know, maybe there's some kind of prioritization or favoring there that that's a differentiator to some extent. Maybe not in Game of Thrones season, but maybe it's a differentiator otherwise.
Right. I mean, it is interesting that, I think as Yanko pointed out before, that the gaming aspect of this Amazon Fire TV box is kind of interesting because we've had folks really rush to casual gaming on mobiles, on tablets, and then we still have our high-end gamers on Xbox. Like, is this gaming function really going to appeal to a lot of folks, or who do you imagine will be interested in this? Would it be the folks, who are Wii-type users, or Nintendo 64 type folks? I don't know. What do you folks think?
Well, it's definitely not going to be for anyone who has an Xbox or PlayStation isn't going to go out and buy this instead of that. So many of those gamers are using online services like I do. They want to play with others, which you're not going to do in the box. Obviously, the quality of the graphics on the Amazon's box isn't anything close to what it is on a true game system. But that's okay because we have different needs in the market based on different types of consumers and what they want to do and how they want to play games. So it's great for the casual gamer. I could totally see someone like my wife playing some games on there. She's never going to go on the Xbox or PS4. She's not going to use that, but I could see her using this.
I also think the Wii was a good example for the fact that there's a market, even a mass market, for gamers that are not necessarily interested in the latest and greatest in terms of graphics. because the Wii, when it came out, was a last generation hardware device, essentially. But it had some interesting and new ideas. And if Amazon can do this and maybe get new types of games even, they're obviously very aggressive with striking relationships with game studios here, and they have their own studio arm. So if they can get some new and interesting content on here, I think they can corner out an interesting niche for themselves.
Yeah, I think the nice thing is it being an Android-based box is it'll be very seamless for a lot of game developers on the casual game side to adopt the platform. That'll lead to a lot of variety. But if you look back at that comparison chart, you look at gaming being here, you think towards a family making a decision on which streaming box to buy, and they want to have one box in their living room, and it doesn't make sense if you're not type of people on this chat to have 3 or 4 of these boxes potentially if you can get a lot of the same content. And that's a standout feature. You can have one box that also brings casual gaming into the living room. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Right. I mean, it seems like also that if you look at the capabilities of all these boxes, certainly it looks like Google's offering with Chromecast, which is cool and is cheap and is kind of a geek's tool in terms of its openness of developing for it, seems to be looking kind of old compared to these new offerings. Do you see anything from Google's side or with Chromecast as to why we should believe that Google's efforts might be interesting going forward?
Well, I think Google has a little bit of a different approach, and if you compare these two models, the Fire TV has some interesting features for consumers, but ultimately when it comes to the space and even the industry, I think Chromecast is more disruptive because it kind of takes away this whole idea of one single app store or one single platform where people have to be on and where certain favors are. Maybe Amazon is highlighting its own content, obviously, on its platform and its home screen. With Chromecast, you don't have any of this, and any publisher can come from iOS, from Android, or even from the web and just have their viewers and consumers cast content to the TV screen. I think that's a lot more disruptive model. I don't think that there's one size fits all answer for consumers. Some consumers still want to have a remote control. Some consumers are still more attuned to finding content on their TV. That's more when you come from the traditional TV experience, then having a TV-based user interface is a smaller step than going all the way to the tablet and finding everything on your tablet or phone. But I think Chromecast is a very different beast, and I think it's still a strong beast in a way.
Yeah, and you pointed out that before this announcement from Amazon, Chromecast was still the #1 best-selling electronics product off of Amazon, right?
Yeah, they have been that for a while, actually, and they kind of maintained that top spot for a couple of months. Every now and then, maybe a Kindle model went in there for a day or two, and then it went down again. So they have been selling a lot of these devices. They haven't told us exactly how many. They have said many millions have been sold. This could be obviously anything. If you're Google and you want to spin this, then 2 could be many because it's many more than 1. But it could also be more, obviously. So we don't quite know yet, but obviously they're selling a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the big loser here winds up being Roku more than Google. That's a box that was the most open platform with kind of predefined, well-defined apps available in the market, a good price point, and the key subscription and streaming services. Apple, not as open, so you couldn't get anything that you want on there. And Amazon will be, as of today, is open in terms of its support for Android applications and the ease of development for that platform, combined with the tie-in to the Amazon services. So I think more than Google, Roku will be affected by the Amazon box.
I think so too, and especially when you talk to developers, or when you talk to developers in the past, they always said, well, Roku is a pain to develop for because they have their very own proprietary bright scripting environment, and they don't quite support HTML, and so it's hard if you have an app running on another platform to just take it and bring it to Roku. On the other hand, everybody always said Android is so much easier, and Google TV in theory would be so great, but except nobody's using it, it's hella complicated. Now this seems to be something that's much easier, but it's based on Android, so it opens up new avenues for developers to get their content on here more easily, and at the same time it could be attractive to many more consumers than Google TV ever was.
Yeah, the big difference was, or is, this isn't just an Android tablet or phone port to a TV. Like we've developed for some of those, and you get a phone keyboard that slides up on the screen, and phone conventions and hamburger bun navigation that you have to kind of go find and click to with your remote. This is the main launcher and home screen, the voice search. This is highly optimized, well-designed TV device that takes a different approach than Apple did, but it's better designed and faster performing than any of the specialized devices. And looking back on old Google TV, it's much easier to understand and works much better. I mean, I remember the old Google TV. If you had Pandora running and then you started a movie, the music from Pandora was running in the background below what you were trying to watch. And this has multitasking. It's smart and lets you to switch from thing to thing. It's really well done. It's all about the content in the apps, but box to box, it's quite nice.
Right. I mean, you have to imagine that Google sees some opportunity for some vertical integration, right? So if they've got you as a Prime customer, as someone who owns a Fire TV, they're doing their own programming.
Amazon. I think you said Google.
I'm sorry. Amazon. I'm sorry. That if they've got you in so many ways, there are even more interesting ways that they could provide benefits to Prime subscribers on this to attract even more people to adopt this. Do you folks see something like that?
I'm waiting till the day until they give this to Prime subscribers. Because think about it, if Roku's selling a box at $50, at what price point will Amazon get this down to in scale? It's all economics of scale. Can they afford to take a loss at $15 or $20 a box and just give it to a Prime subscriber to get them to sign up for Prime? Potentially they could. So if they end up starting giving this stuff away or giving away a flavor of a box over time, it's hard to compete with free.
Right, and they just raised their price of Prime to $99 a year, but what if they gave you a box with that first year? And that's scary, right?
Yeah. Well, as the video subscription gets better and better, it actually is quite a nice value. They're just browsing through this morning, and I haven't been through the Amazon library in a little while, but seeing they're adding 24, the British show Orphan Black that a lot of people rave about. You start seeing a lot better content. But I agree. I mean, if you look back to the mobile model, what we've seen kind of net out and has been a world of integrated services, software, and hardware, and that's been kind of the winning formula. And in the TV world, if you look at that as well, Amazon's now putting that together: the services on the top, the software in the middle, and the hardware on the bottom layer. And we'll see if that's the same recipe on the TV side. Certainly, we've seen it even with traditional distributors and what the Comcasts of the world have done, the larger distributors with hardware, software layers, and content that they own and distribute. I'm kind of waiting for an Amazon phone now, I have to say. When they have a photo feature on the box that you can synchronize any of the photos you take out to the TV, which I think is one of the really nice things that a lot of people don't talk about with the Apple TV, is that anecdotally, if you talk to people, they tend to use it a lot for personal media as well in the home, not just mirroring content, but the synchronization of photo streams and what have you. So Amazon has a cloud drive app that you can install on your Android or iPhone or on your computer and do that synchronization. But I think they'd probably get better lock-in if once you got a phone, it was automatically pre-configured with all your Amazon services, much as the Fire TV is. Your photos, your music, your movies, everything kind of synchronized across your devices without any configuration. Consumers aren't going to go seek out this cloud drive app to go install on their phones and to synchronize with the TV. I mean, our early adopters will, but that won't be a mass market thing.
Right. Amazon's never been really strong in matching like Dropbox or Apple's iCloud kind of thing as a consumer-facing or consumer-friendly app. So one last question to you three folks. So it's great that we have choice. It's great we have all these capabilities. Roku's got a remote that has a headphone jack. Amazon's got one with a microphone. We've all got these different capabilities. It seems like a HD TV with 4 HDMI ports is not even enough. Is this how we just gonna have to live in the future? Is to have a spider of stuff hanging out of our TV and just keep doing this for the next 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, we already have that today. Plus, think about how many devices you already have in the home. We're probably not the average consumer. I mean, I certainly know, I'm not, but the average consumer has got to have 7, 8, 9 devices of some kind already streaming, at least Netflix, TV, game console, phones, tablets, computers. But yeah, I mean, my TV needs like 50 HDMI ports. But you just, you split them all out. But the average user, I don't think, is going to have, 10 devices hooked up to their their TV. But they are going to have a set-top box, maybe a game console, Blu-ray, unless they have a new game console.
DVR, yeah.
DVR, yeah, set-top box. Then you're going to have, let's say, an Apple TV, a Roku, one of these Amazon boxes. So yeah, you're going to run out of HDMI quickly.
Eric, any hope, or we're just going to have 4 remotes taped together and just kind of deal with it?
Yeah, I think hopefully Logitech will come out with an answer for that, but they'd have to put a microphone search box right on their universal remote. Yeah, I think we're going to continue to have this HDMI port game, and stuff will get knocked down the ranking. Like multi-room households with TVs, you used to take like the second generation TV, and that would get moved into the second room or the basement. I guess that will be what happens with the streaming boxes. The old Roku goes into the basement, the Fire TV comes into the living room. I do think that's part of how gaming will play in with Amazon, is when you look at what to keep in that, running out of HDMI points, what you're gonna keep in that room. Gaming will be a factor that might keep the Fire TV in the living room. But I do think also the smart TV guys, it's going to be really tough for them to keep up. Once you get a feel for the performance of a box like this, and a TV sits in your living room for 5 to 7 years, the smart TV layer is going to seem more and more outdated, and they're just not going to be able to keep up.
I think I agree. It's going to be so confusing with boxes, and new boxes are coming out every 6 months, a major one anyway. And if you pay attention to the minor ones, you quickly lose track. I think we are getting to a point where finally the whole remote control mess is being cleaned up a little bit, because more and more of these devices do support second screen control, and Amazon as well. So the box supports what's called the dial protocol. So it enables developers to directly launch Netflix, at least in theory, from a phone. Right. Rather, it enables consumers to do that. Obviously, developers can integrate it first. Right now, this doesn't work for any of the apps on this device yet, which kind of goes to the point earlier that maybe they shipped this a little fast. But eventually, I see people also using this not just through this remote control, but much more also through their phone or through their tablet, possibly through their Kindle Fire, I guess.
All right. Well, thanks so much, folks. Thanks for the great insights. And although we don't have a solution for the multiple devices, it's great to have that choice. So thanks again to Dan, Eric, and Janko, and to Claire Groden, our producer and intern for PBS Media Shift. Hope to see you next week. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thanks.